So let's find these twisties and see what's going to happen. Well, hi and welcome to another RiderCamTV video, and today, courtesy of our friends at Damerells in Indian Queens down in Cornwall, we have got the opportunity to take out a brand spanking new 2017 Suzuki V Strom 1000. Now the bike that I've got isn't the XT, so it comes in two versions at the moment, a standard V Strom 1000, which is what I've got here, and also a 1000 XT. Now the XT, the difference on the XT is basically you've got spoked wheels and it's more of a cross tourer, hence the XT name. Whereas this one is more billed as the sort of do anything, go touring, more roady type version. So, having ridden it just for literally about 2 minutes, it's just like riding the 650, but you've got more power. I really like the seating position and I love the colours, and we'll go over some of the gadgets and the colours and the styling a bit later on. But it doesn't feel very heavy. Now I've looked through all of the manufacturer's details and the mass weight at the moment is to be confirmed, so I'll have to do a bit of digging on the internet to put it up on the card. But this version's got about 100 brake horsepower and about 100 newton meters of torque, and it's got a 20 litre tank, so no problems with touring. Although because this is a brand new model, even in their own literature, it's still to be confirmed about MPG and that sort of thing. However, 20 litre tank on a 1000 engine, providing it's not revving like mad and you're going a long way, you're going to get a good range out of the tank. Now, little things that I like about the Suzuki, it looks very basic from a rider's point of view. And I think I said that on the 650 V Strom video as well, which you can check by looking at that card at the top there. But the instrument cluster is really basic. However, rather than it being flash whizzy bang like the KTM and lots of other manufacturers that started to put colourful stuff onto their bike, this one is really basic. And I say that in a good way, because being basic it's almost like retro, but now, I know it doesn't make an awful lot of sense, but it makes sense to me. But the dials are really easy to read. You've got a massive rev counter there. You know what gear you're in. You've got a digital speed indicator there. You've got your temperature, your fuel gauge, the time, how many miles the bike's done, the traction control. And it's just there. And what I really like about a lot of these bikes now is rather than having to dip your head to look at all of the dials, you can just dip your eyes, so you haven't got to take your eye off the road for very long, which ultimately is making things a lot safer. And because the dials and the instruments are so easy to read, it's not going to be an issue trying to find what you're looking for because it's right there in front of you. I'm really liking on Suzuki V Stroms the rear view mirrors. I'm not liking the shape that much. I don't think it's in keeping as much as the shape of the bike has been restyled. But I tell you what, they are really good. I can see everything behind me. I've got no illusion as to what's happening behind me, and it's right there. They're really easy to adjust. They stay in place really well. So they're functional. I'd probably have a slightly different shape if I was designing it, but hey, each to their own. The throttle, really quite responsive, but there is a bit of a slack bit there, which is a little bit disconcerting, but when you're actually using it, everything's fine, so there's not an issue there. All of the switchgear that Suzuki have put on this bike are in keeping with much of Suzuki's switchgear on the other V Strom, the 650 and the other models they have, and it's really easy to know what you're pressing. You get some good feedback when you press the buttons, and I'm not fishing around to look for the indicator stalk because it's not too long, it's just right. They're really well labelled, you know what you're going to press. Now what I do like about this bike is the basicness of the instruments and the dashboard in front, because they've been able to put things like a power outlet right there, right where you need it, rather than having to fish around trying to find something. Other manufacturers, sometimes on BMWs, they're kind of hidden away and they're in kind of an awkward place. If you wanted an adapter that's a right-angled adapter or something like that, it's quite difficult to get an adapter to fit properly without hitting some of the bodywork. Whereas on this one, exceptional place to put it, so it's right there. There's loads of space on your handlebars in case you wanted to fit extra things like mobile phones and sat-nav brackets. And this screen, now presumably you can get a bigger screen if you were having buffeting problems, but the few miles that I've done I haven't had any buffeting problems. But it is adjustable. You can adjust it, and I'll show you that. It's really funky how it adjusts. Not seen that sort of adjustment on any of the bikes that I've ridden so far, which is great. I don't feel too scrunched up on this bike. I feel just comfortable, really. The pegs are at the right height, the brake pedal and the gear selector are all in the right place, and I'm not fishing around. However, I have noticed that the right and the left foot pegs are really quite big pegs. And that's great. They've got a rubber insert on there, so I'm not getting any vibration whatsoever through my feet, which is just the best, because some bikes are so vibey, it's unbelievable. However, I have noticed that when I've gone to put the footstand down, that I am banging into that left-hand peg with my calf quite a bit, and it's taking quite a bit of time and effort, really, I guess, to fish around and try and find that side stand to kick it down and to kick it back up again to move off. However, you know, this is all semantics. It's all first real world problems, and it's something that people will just get used to. And it's just that they're slightly bigger pegs. They're in a slightly different place than I'm used to. Now the bike, I wouldn't imagine it weighs very much. But it certainly doesn't feel like it weighs very much. It's very thin. I'm really loving the styling, but it's really good at slow riding, slow manoeuvring, or slow speed manoeuvring even. Really good at it. I don't feel that the steering is too light. And sometimes on my GS Adventure, I do get the feeling that when you're slow speed manoeuvring, that the front forks or the steering on the front is just a little bit too light, leaving you, kind of moving all over the place and having to really concentrate. But the whole of this bike, from front to back, feels extremely well weighted, meaning that I haven't got to really worry about that inaccuracies of slow riding. So we're going to go on to one of my favourite roads for testing these bikes out with a few twisties, and we're going to see how it performs. It's got a nice throaty, kind of dumbed down throaty roar. This bike, by the looks of it, has only done 20 miles, so I'm not going to rag it or anything like that. Got to look after these machines, but this national speed limit road this is, so won't be a problem. So going around corners, I actually feel quite confident on this bike, much like the 650. I am at speed, getting quite a lot of wind, so let's move that forward. Still getting quite a lot of wind, but it is clean wind. It's not buffeting air onto my helmet, which is great. The brakes are really good, and there's not too much dip. The suspension seems to be set up at just the right level, that it's not too hard and not too soft. So braking, because there's no one behind me, braking is very good. There's a little bit of dip as you would expect, but not a huge amount like the KTM 690 that we took out. Thanks to that V-twin engine, much like any twins, there isn't much overrun. So going into a corner and just dropping off the throttle, exceptionally great engine braking. which is adding to the confidence that I'm feeling on this bike, to be honest. And chucking it into the corners, it just feels like I've ridden this for a long time, even though I've just been riding it sort of 10 miles. Really quite a nice seat. Now I find on my adventure seat that it's a little bit too wide, and after a long ride, the inside of one of my thighs on my left-hand side tends to ache quite a bit. Whereas this seat, I feel very much in the bike, I feel attached to the bike. It's firm but comfortable. And I think, do you know what? It fills me with a bit of confidence that I'd perhaps be able to do quite a few miles on this bike before having to get off because I need to stretch. And up and down the box is a dream. It hasn't got a quick shifter or anything like that on it. But going up and down the box, really responsive when you put it into gear. I don't feel like I'm fishing for gears like on some bikes. And up until now, I've had no false gear selections, which is really good. So I can just concentrate on riding. I'm getting a little bit of vibration through the handlebars though. Fourth gear seems to be its sweet spot rather than third. Although third is quite a nice responsive gear. No, I don't know. Having said that, I think third is probably the responsive gear. Allow me to chuck it in. I've got good engine braking when I come off. Got a good amount of acceleration there waiting for me. And being able to just chuck it into these corners, it just doesn't feel like I'm putting any effort in at all. The bike seems to be doing it all for me. Yeah, very nice. And it's not wallowing in the corners, it's just planted. It's quite nice riding quite a thin bike actually without any boxes, because I have my boxes on all the time on my adventure. It's quite nice being able to use the whole road. What a great bike. I'm really liking this bike, as I'm sure that you will agree. It's a fantastically futuristic but now looking bike. Now they revised this bike from the 2014 model, and I'm really liking what they've done with the beak. It's not jagged, it's all really lovely smooth lines. I'm liking the yellow with the silver and the black. I think that just makes everything on this bike just pop. And I'm not a yellow bike fan, to be honest, but it almost looks like a bit of a wasp. And it's gonna be a head turner, I'm sure of it. So the lights on this bike, on the front, they're all bulb lights and bulbs in the indicators, which is a bit weird this day and age. You would think that they would be putting LED lights in most bike lights now, but they're just bulbs. I suppose it's easy to change and cheap to manufacture and cheap to change. So there are always pluses. And I think that Suzuki have taken a leaf out of KTM's book here, especially in terms of what I like about it. They've got this moulded plastic that's protecting the upside down forks, which is brilliant. Not an awful lot of manufacturers do that. KTM do it very well, but what I really like about this bike over most manufacturers that I've ridden, most bikes that I've ridden, is that this mudguard goes all the way down. So it's really protecting all of the pipe work, the engines, and obviously the radiator. It's protecting that oil cooler, whatever you want to call it. It's semantics, but it's a radiator. It is a big, huge radiator, but I wouldn't be rushing out to get a proper grill to save that radiator because of this brilliant mudguard. And I really think that it's great that they've put it on there. Please, other manufacturers, start doing the same, because it costs a lot of money to buy these bikes. And why are we having to spend money on extra bits and pieces when we don't really need to? They've continued the styling all the way down the side, which is just fab. And they haven't hidden the engine with loads of fairings and things. Really like that. They've even got a belly pan down the bottom to protect the exhaust pipe, protect the bottom of the engine. Now on this one, same as the 650, you have got a dipstick to see what the oil's doing and see the levels. But you know, there's no great biggie there. Now these pegs, they don't look that big, but they are quite big. And with this amount of rubber on there, absolutely no vibration whatsoever. The brake pedal in exactly the right place, and I wasn't fishing around for it, really easy to find. Now, I don't know whether you'll be able to see inside there, but we've got red spring, which is interesting for me because the rest of the bike is yellow, black and silver. I would have thought that they would have put either a white or a silver or a yellow coil in there just to make it match the rest of the bike, but you know, red, perhaps it's showing a little bit of difference, I don't know. Good pegs for the pillion rider there, which is great. And then you come onto the can. Now this is a 1000cc bike and it makes a really nice noise, and I like the fact that the can matches the rest of the bike. So we've got all of this black here, and then we've got this silver here, and just looking down in there you'll be able to see that they've got a valve on there sticking straight up. Won't produce much of a problem putting air in there, but I really wish that it would be standard for bikes to have the angled valve on there, just to make it easier for all of us to fill up with air. The lights on the back are LED lights for the brake light, indicators are bulbs, and they've even added this extra addition on the bottom of the number plate just to stop any debris and stuff flicking up behind you. I'm not sure how good that would be, but it's certainly a good thing to have it on there. And we've got a chain on the bike, which isn't an issue. Beefier chain than the 650 as you would expect, which is great. Good bit of protection for the chain as well, stop all the oil, and that does come back quite far, so I'm wondering if you had a Scott oiler that it would actually stop a lot of that oil flicking all over the place, which is a good little addition. So come into the middle of the bike. You know that both me and Mark are really technical on these stuff. There's a knob to make it soft and hard, and you can change the suspension there, but it's just set up right for what I like, so I'm not going to play around with that, but really easy to change. Now the seat on this bike, as you can see, is a one-piece seat, which isn't an issue. It's very comfortable, it's very wide at the back, so a pillion I would imagine would be very comfortable on there. But as you can see, as you go forward, and hopefully the light will be okay, as you can see, it actually tapers into the bike. So like I was saying earlier on my adventure, I get a bit of inner thigh pain because it's kind of square and drops away, but this one I felt that I could ride on it for quite some time. And I like the fact that they've brought the seat quite high up on the tank, so yet again a manufacturer that not everybody thinks about to have a bike has put the additions on to stop you having to buy all the tank guards and stuff straight out of the box. You can just get on it and ride it and not worry about your zips and things like that damaging the tank, which I think is really good. So on the back of the bike we've got a really good rack. Now that you can obviously get luggage to put on these bikes, and I would imagine you'd be able to get Givey and a whole host of different rack brackets and things to put on there, but really big handles there for the pillion to hold on to, and they feel connected to the bike. Some bikes they wobble a little bit, but they're rigid. So coming up to the instruments and the wing mirrors, like I say, those wing mirrors are a little bit of an old type of shape for me. They don't make any difference to the aesthetics when you look at the whole bike as a whole, but I think that you could have almost cut them off here just to add the styling and put them in keeping with the bike. But one thing they really do well is give you such a good view from behind. They're exceptional, and I'd probably say one of the best wing mirrors on a bike that I've ridden for a long time, purely because you can just see so much. The switchgear is really nice, really nicely labelled. You get some good feedback when you're pressing the buttons, and that indicator stalk is just the right length so you're not fishing around trying to find it. Obviously you've got the horn there, and it is one of the quick starts, this bike. So all it needs is you just literally click it and the bike will start. You've got your emergency stop button, and obviously you've got your hazard lights there, which are on a kind of a stalk, much like the indicator. Was a bit weird, I've never seen that before, but hey, it works. So looking at the dials, you get a nice visual representation that's going through its checks. Huge rev counter, you've got all of the instrument information and the bike information to hand, and like I said when we were riding, just dipping your eyes you can see everything in there rather than having to dip your whole head, which I think is a really nice feature. One thing I do like about this bike, although the screen could be a little bit taller for me, I wasn't getting any buffeting, it was all clean wind. It's not a particularly big screen, but it's on a ratchet system, so literally you pull it out and let go and it brings it right back in again. and then you just pull it out until it clicks, and you're on the next groove, and then the next groove, and then right back again. So if I do that again, hopefully you'll be able to see in there that there's little teeth there, and they're the ones that get caught onto the mechanism. So riding along, as you saw, I was able to just push the screen forward and get it into the right position for me without even having to worry. Even on bikes that purport to have easy things like the BMW, you've got to twist the knob and make sure it's in the right place, and you can't really do that with where you're riding along very safely. But this bike, the ability to just adjust the screen really easily, I think it's just an exceptional little system for something so simple that could have such a big impact for the rider and their comfort. I don't think you can understate the fact that that is such a simple device that could have such a good benefit to us as a rider. So what do I think of the V Strom 1000? I think it's a great bike, I really do. It's not as expensive as things like BMWs and KTMs. Not sure on the sort of price in your country, so have a look. But what a great looking bike, I'm sure you'll agree. I love this styling, I really do. And I know that you'll probably put in the comments, oh, you keep going on about the styling, but it's not every day that you see a bike that's yellow, black, but just looks right. And I think this is going to be a real head turner. The seat's comfortable, the seat position is really comfortable, and I think little things like being able to change the angle of the screen really easily is such a great benefit to the rider, because you can change it whenever you want to. There's no getting off and changing things and getting spanners and stuff out, or even turning hard knobs and, you know, having to stop. So if you've enjoyed this video, give us a massive thumbs up, it really does help a ton. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also that little bell when you subscribe, so you know exactly when our videos are coming out, and they come up in your feed then. Massive shout out to Carl and Steve and Damerells and all of the team there. They're great friends of RiderCamTV. Thanks for watching our video, and we will see you in the next one.